Hi players, bonjour from Paris. My name is Asaf and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today I'm going to show how to play Fractal Beyond the Void. Special thanks to Bernardo Rip that sponsored this video. As always, if you learned something new or if you saw something that you like, please consider subscribing to the channel and help me grow this amazing community. Like and comment on the video, let me know what did you think about Fractal Beyond the Void. After that, I just want to add that there is another video that I did with a playthrough of True Cycles, of course with explanations of everything that's going on, so feel free to check that out. Ready to see how it goes? Let's go to setup. Alright guys, so the first thing that we'll need to do is to set up the map. Now if you'll turn to page 23, you'll be able to choose which map you would like to play, and it depends on two things. The first one is how many players are going to play. So this is going to be a setup for 2 players. We're going to use one of these 2 maps. And the second thing that is dependent on is how much conflict you would like to have in this game. So with the extended layout, it's going to have less emphasis on conflict. And on the compact map, you will have much more emphasis on conflict. I'm going to choose the extended map so you will not have to look at my stupid face during the entire video. In order to lay out the map, we'll need to look for the hexagons that are marked as fixed components, like the utopian sector or the different starting sectors. Also, we'll have here the non-habitable sectors, the productive sectors, and the living storms. We're going to lay these sectors exactly like it's shown on the map itself. The second part of laying the map is to put all the variable components. So we have 2 mystery sectors, 2 biodiverse sectors, and 4 arid sectors. So all of the rest of these components that I just listed, we're going to put face down, we're going to shuffle them, and then we're going to put them in a random way in every place that we can see this white sector on the map. Then we'll go to setting up the player components. So each player is going to choose a color. Here I'm going to show you the setup only for the yellow player, but it's going to be the same for the other players. And we're also going to take all the components in that specific color. That means the different units, the different tactic cards, the colony tokens, the science tokens, and the empire board itself. As you can see, I've already placed the 12 colony tokens in their respective place. So you're going to leave only the leftmost space open. Each player will put their influence token on number 1 and their credit token on 0. Then each player will take their action tokens and will put them in their respective place. So this is the recruit token, the advance, colonize research token, their action card token, and their government token. Then we'll need to separate between the tactic cards that are the elite ones, and we can identify them by this word that says elite right over here. Those for now you can put face down next to your board. And right next to them we're going to put the normal tactic cards that we have. So we can put it for now right over here. The first player token, now pay attention that it's on this side and not on the other side that is called the Watcher. We're going to give to the last player that have seen a space opera movie. Or of course you can do it in a random way. So let's say that this is going to be with the yellow player right over here. Now it's time to choose the different factions. So we're going to take all the available faction mats and pay attention that some faction mats are going to go only with the expansion. We're going to shuffle them and we will reveal a number of them equal to the number of players plus 2. Since this is going to be a 2-player game, we're going to reveal 4 factions. So we can just put them just like this. And now the first player, the one that has the first player token, is going to choose one of them and is going to take it. Going clockwise, the other players will follow the same. The yellow player has chosen Zingu, the True High faction. And before we're going to place it over here, we're going to look on the other side. And here I can show you that we have a few things. First of all, according to how many dots we have over here, this is going to indicate the complexity of this faction. So over here we can see that this is kind of a basic faction, which is kind of good for your first few games. Now over here on the right side, we can see that we have a starting colony of military. So we're going to take 1 military colony from the empire board, and we're going to place it on the starting hex of that player. The yellow player's starting hex is this one right over here, so we can put this colony just like this. Also, we can see that we have the starting units. Over here we have 2 infantry and 2 light ship. So we're going to take these units from the yellow player's general supply and we're going to place them right over here. Just for the sake of the setup, the blue player has chosen Exodian, the Wandering Alliance, and his starting colony is going to be the Imperial one, so we're going to put it right over here. And his starting units are exactly the same, so 2 infantry and 2 light ship. This faction is also a non-complex one. Now each player is going to take their government cards, over here we have 2, and he's going to choose one of these government cards. In this case, the yellow player has chosen the Collective Overmind government card. Also, we can see that we have a specific Mastery card, just like it says over here, Accelerated Evolution. So we're going to take this card that you can see right over here and pay attention that you're going to put it on its basic side face up. I'm saying it because on the other side, we're going to have the elite side. So now we can attach this faction mat into the Empire board, and let's put the different cards right over here. Now, if for example, the starting colony of the yellow player would have been an Imperial one, for example, we would have taken one more influence point indicated by the marker, because he now has this bonus revealed. But this is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Next, we're going to put on the table all the shared components. So we're going to have 4 different boards over here. The first one is going to be the civil technology. Then we're going to have the military technology. After that, we're going to have the cycle board, and we're going to have the action board. For the civil technology, we're going to have a civil technology deck that we'll need to divide into 3 different decks. The first one are the technologies that are indicated with numbers 1 and 2. The second deck are numbers 3 to 5. And the third deck are the cards that are marked with the number 7. So now, depends on how many players are playing this game, we're going to set up the different sign slot right over here. Since this is going to be a 2-player game, we're going to use only 3 slots. So let's start with the cards that are marked with number 7. We're going to shuffle them, and we're going to put 1 card face down in each slot. Then we're going to take the deck with the numbers 3 to 5, again going to give it a good shuffle, and in each slot we're going to put again one of these cards facing down. And the last thing is that we're going to take the deck with numbers 1 and 2, give it a good shuffle, and now we're going to put 1 card in each slot but facing up. In order to build the military technology board, we're going to do exactly the same as we did with the civil technology, but with a different deck of cards, of course. That will be the military technology deck. For the cycle board, we're going to take a cycle marker and we're going to put it on number 1. Then we're going to choose a random first age objective card and we're going to put it face up. And we're going to take a random second age objective card and we're going to place it face down just below it. Then we'll take all the action cards, we're going to give them again a good shuffle, and we're going to place this deck right over here, and we're going to open 4 cards facing up. The last thing that we'll do with the action board is to take all the artifact cards that we can see right over here. Again, give them a good shuffle, as always, the best shuffle on YouTube, and we're going to place them right over here. This place is going to be reserved for the discard action cards that we're going to have during the game. Then we'll take all the other tokens like the blockade, the medals, and so on, and we're going to put them next to the board in a place that is available for all the players. The last thing that we'll need to do, and actually I should have done it a little bit earlier, is to put the different components face down on the different sectors. So for example, we're going to shuffle all the obstacle cards that we can see right over here, and in every sector that we'll see this symbol, we're going to take one of these obstacles and we're going to place them face down. The same thing we're going to do with the anomaly cards. After that, we're going to take all the living galaxy tokens, we're going to shuffle them, and we're going to place face down randomly on each hexagon that we can see with this symbol. That means the non-habitable sectors. And the last thing is to take a random singularity card and to place it face down right over here on the utopian sector. In Fractal Beyond the Void, we're going to have a few phases in each cycle. The first phase is the income phase, where players are going to take the income according to 3 parameters that we'll see soon enough. Then we're going to continue to the action phase. So the different players will take in their turn 2 actions, either one of the 4 basic actions, which are recruit, advance, colonize, or research, and those actions you will be able to take up to 1 time per turn, or you will take one of your advanced actions, either the government action that you will be able to do once per cycle, or to play an action card. The moment that a player has played his second action card, either face up or face down, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, he will be considered as passed. We're going to finish the action phase the moment that all the players have passed. After the action phase, we're going to continue to the conflict phase, where we're going to resolve combat in contested hexagons. That means in a hexagon that will contain more than one faction. And then we're going to continue to the end of the cycle, where we will follow a certain procedure that we'll see a little bit later. Between the second and the third cycle, we're going to have transition, and that means that we're going to score victory points according to the objective card of the first age. Then we're going to flip face up the objective card of the second age, and we're going to combine it with the card of the first age, and we're going to continue to the third and fourth cycles. At the end of the fourth cycle, we're going to have again a transition. Again, we're going to score victory points, and at that point, the player that has the most victory points has won the game. In case we have a tie, we're going to break this tie according to who has the most battle medals. Then, if still we have a tie, who has the most remaining influence, then the most remaining credits, and then the most remaining units and colonies on the board. If again, after all of these 4 conditions, we still have a tie, players are going to live in harmony together in this galaxy, and we're going to have a tie. The income phase is divided into 3 parameters. First of all, each player is going to gain the number of credits that is marked on the leftmost revealed space in their productive row. So in this case, the yellow player will have 3 credits that we can indicate with the credit marker right over here. The second part is the trigger exploitation areas you control if you meet the requirement. So if, for example, the yellow player is now controlling this sector that has this living galaxy that is called precursor key, we can see that we have a certain condition. The condition is that if you have 1 light chip, in this case of course, you will receive 1 influence. In the last part, we're going to trigger any during income phase effect and unexhaust all exhausted components, which is something that we have with the different components like an artifact card, for example. In the action phase, each player will take 2 actions. So let's start talking about all the different actions that we can do, starting with the recruit basic action. First of all, when we're doing one of these basic actions, we need to do 2 things. The first one is to pay the price for this action. So right now we can see that it's going to cost us 1 credit. We're going to take the credit marker from 3 to 2, and we'll need to slide this token up. It's just a reminder that this is the action that we took. Now, in each recruit action, we'll be able to recruit only 1 specific type of unit, either infantry, light ship, a mech, or a warship. And it depends on how many of these spaces in the military row we have revealed. Since right now we have 2 of these spaces that are revealed, we'll be able to recruit either 2 infantry, as indicated over here, or 2 light ships, right? We have 1 over here plus 1 over here, or we'll be able to recruit 1 mech. When we're recruiting units, we need to take them from the supply, and we're going to put them on a hexagon that contains one of our colonies. It doesn't matter which one. If in some cases we have 2 colonies or more, we'll be able to split these units between any colonies that we want. So if the yellow player has decided to recruit 2 infantry, we can put 1 over here and the other one over here. Now this is something that this specific faction will not be able to do, because when we're looking over here at the swarm special ability, you can't recruit infantry, but anytime you advance, after finishing your movement, add 1 infantry to a sector with your units. So this obviously was just an example. Another thing concerning recruitment is when we have a sector with, of course, our colony, let's say that we're playing the yellow player, and in this sector we have 4 enemy units, we will not be able to recruit in this sector. It will be considered as blockaded, and we have this token that we can put on this hexagon just to remind us. The next action that we have is called advance. So again, we need to pay 1 credit, right? And we're going to slide it up to remind us that we did it. And that is basically how we're going to move with the different units on the map. Now, the amount of units that we can move depended on the leftmost revealed space in the Imperial row. So right now, the yellow player will be able to move up to 2 different units. And it's important to say different units because the moment a unit has finished its movement, it will not be able to move anymore in this specific turn. The distance that each unit will be able to move depends on the leftmost revealed space in the scientific row. So right over here, we can see that each unit will be able to move up to 1 hexagon. The more spaces are going to be revealed, the longer each unit will be able to move. At the beginning of the game, the only unit that will be able to move from 1 hexagon to another is a space unit. So this means the light ship and the warship. In our specific case, if the yellow player is now doing the advance, we'll be able to take, for example, this ship and move over here. And because we can move another unit, we can also take this light ship and move over here. The ground units will be able to move with one of the space units. So a light ship will be able to transport up to 2 units with it, up to 2 ground units. So if we want to move, we can move with these 2 units and this light ship over here. And the warship will be able to transport up to 3 ground units. A few other things concerning the advance action is when we're moving a unit into a place that has an event, and that means either an obstacle, an anomaly, a living galaxy, or the singularity card, before we're going to continue to another movement, we need to stop and reveal that specific component. That means that we're going to put it face up, and then there are some specific conditions that will allow us to remove this anomaly or obstacle. In this specific case, with the obstacle that is called undisciplined troops, we'll be able to move this obstacle if we're going to do one of the following. Either on this specific hexagon, we're going to have a mech, okay? Either now, because we moved with the light ship, or later if we're going to have it in a different turn. Then we're going to not only remove this obstacle, but we're going to receive 1 influence, as we can see right over here. The second option to remove this obstacle is to pay 1 influence, and then we'll be able to take this obstacle from this hexagon and just place it right next to our board. Another thing that can affect the movement is the living storms that we can see right over here. A living storm is something that is going to block our movement from one sector to 2 other sectors. So for example, if I'm going to have over here, don't worry about this living galaxy, let's say that we have this warship right over here. Unless we have a different effect that we can have from different cards, this warship will not be able to move over here or over here because we're going to have this living storm that is blocking its passage. The last thing that is going to affect our movement is something that is called pin down. So let's say, for example, that the blue player has performed a movement and he's going to take 2 space units, a light ship and a warship, and he's going to move right over here. Now the yellow player needs to see how many ships of the enemy, doesn't matter if it's one player or another, we have in this hexagon. So because we have here 2 spaceships, the blue player is going to pin down 2 spaceships of the yellow player and vice versa. So the blue player has entered here, but now neither of the players will be able to take neither of their space units and move outside of this sector. Again, of course, unless we have an effect from a different technology or from different action card and so on. If we would have had here another blue ship, now the blue player can choose which one of his 3 space units will not be pinned down, right? Because we have only 2 space units of the yellow player, and he will be able to move the third one. It's up to the blue player. So he can decide to move the warship or to move one of the light ships and so on. When performing this movement, of course, the ground units are not going to be pinned down. So in this case again, the blue player will be able to take one of his space units and transport with it as many ground units as it allowed him to a different sector. The third basic action is to colonize. So we're going to pay 1 credit and we're going to slide it up. And this will allow us to put one of the colonies in one of the sectors that allows it. Why do I say when it allows it? Because here, for example, we can see that we have a non-habitable sector. But in other sectors, like we can see over here, for example, we have 2 symbols that indicate which colony we'll be able to put over here. Of course, if we have a situation like this, and we still have this obstacle on this hexagon, we will not be able to colonize it. We have to, first of all, remove this obstacle or anomaly and so on. You will be able to colonize only if you have a unit with the colonize ability. At the beginning of the game, it's going to be only the infantry that will be able to colonize. So right now, we can see that the yellow player will be able to put either an imperial colony or a scientific colony. In this case, he chooses to put an imperial colony. He's going to take it from his imperial board, and he's going to place it right over here. Now pay attention that when we took this colony from the imperial board, we actually revealed this bonus that we're going to take immediately. In different colony rows, it's going to be different bonuses. In our specific case, the yellow player will gain 1 influence that we can indicate just like this. The next action is the research action. So again, paying 1 credit, slide it up, and that will allow us to put a certain amount of science tokens on one of the technologies, either the civil ones or the military ones. Now, the amount of science tokens that we'll be able to put depends on the leftmost free space in the scientific colony row. In this case, the yellow player will be able to put only 1 scientific token. When the yellow player is going to do it, he's going to take 1 science token from his supply, and he's going to choose one of the technologies to put it on. Now, on each card, we're going to have a different requirement of a science token. So if he's going to choose a technology that requires only 1 scientific token, he will be able to immediately acquire it. This token is going to go back to his supply. And that means that he researched this technology and can now use it. Pay attention that after you have taken a face-up technology, you will not immediately flip the face-down card facing up. That is something that we will do at the end of each cycle. If in another case he chooses to put it on a technology that requires more than 1 scientific token, then this will be considered something that is in progress, and only at the next time that he will do the research action and going to add more scientific tokens, only then, when he meets the requirement, he will be able to acquire this technology and put it in his possession. Now, it is absolutely possible that you have started researching a technology, and then another player that maybe was able to put more scientific tokens in his turn just took the technology that you started to research. So the blue player, for example, in this case, will take this technology, and the science token is going to stay on the same slot of technology, just on the next card. Now, even if at some point the yellow player will be able to put enough science tokens, over here you can see that we have the requirement of 5. So let's say that somehow the yellow player has managed to put here 5, he will not take this technology. First of all, we need to wait until it will be face up, and only after the next time that he's going to do a research basic action, he will be able to take this technology. But if we're going to have here the last technology card, that is number 7, and the blue player managed to research the technology before the yellow player, then the yellow player is going to take all the science tokens that he had in this slot, and is going to put it back in his supply. Now, just in case it was not clear, if you can put more than 1 science token, you don't have to put on the same slot, you can put it on different technologies. Different effects from different cards, like the action cards, for example, will allow you to put science tokens on the different technology. In this case, even if you've put enough science tokens on a technology that you meet the requirement, you will not take that specific technology into your possession. you will only be able to acquire it the next time that you will do the research basic action. For the special actions, let's start with the government action that you will be able to do only once per cycle. And then we're going to look at the government card that we have chosen at the beginning of the game. In this case, we're going to resolve whatever we have over here, and it depends how many times we'll be able to trigger it. In our case, for each 3 influence, we're going to remove one of our infantry in order to gain 2 influence, or instead of that, we'll be able to add 1 infantry to a sector with our units. In our case, the yellow player has now 3 influence, so he will be able to trigger this only 1 time. If he would have had 6 influence, he would have been able to trigger this 2 times, and so on. The second special action is to play an action card. So here we can see that we have 4 facing up action cards. So we can choose one of them, and we have 2 possibilities. Either we're going to play it face up and we're going to resolve the effect that we have on the card itself. For example, let's take a look at this card that is called Paranoia. It says that we can spend 1 influence to banish a military colony from your empire board. So just for one moment, let's talk about what does it mean to banish something. To banish something means to completely remove it from the game. You can put it back in the box. In our example, the yellow player will be able to take one of his military colonies, right? This is what is indicated on this action card. He's going to take this colony and he's going to remove it completely from the game. If by doing that he revealed a specific bonus, like we can see over here, he will execute this bonus. After executing the card, we can put it next to our empire board to remind us that we already played one of these cards. The second option is to play this card face down. So let's put it right now next to our board. And that will allow us to do 2 things. First of all, we will earn from this 1 influence. The second thing that we'll be able to do is something that is called insight. When we perform insight, we need to choose one of the 3 following. Either we're going to draw 3 cards from any deck, and we're going to return the cards however we want to the top or to the bottom of the deck. So for example, I can take 3 cards from the action cards deck or from the artifact deck, and then I will be able to choose which cards I want to put at the top of the deck and which cards I want to put at the bottom of the deck. So we can manipulate a little bit the cards according to our strategy. The second option is to look at all the face down technologies in one of the slots, either of the military technology or the civil technologies. And the third option is to look at one of the face down components that we have on the board. It can be an obstacle, a singularity card, a living galaxy, and so on. So basically this insight gives us some sort of a glimpse into the future, and we'll be able to adjust our strategy according to that. After we have played an action card either face up or face down, we're going to immediately replenish a new card right over here. And that means that this action has finished. Now, after you have played your second action card, so let's say that the yellow player has played 2 of these action cards face down, that means that the yellow player is immediately passing and he finished doing his actions for this cycle. The first player that pass is going to take the first player token, but on the other side that is called the Watcher. In general, when you finished your turn, you can slide down the 2 action tokens that you used in your turn. Now, at some point, you're not going to have credits anymore, but you might take more actions. In this case, you're going to do something that is called depleting an action token. When you're going to deplete an action token, so let's say that we're going to execute the recruit basic action, we're going to flip it to the other side. Pay attention to keep it on number 2 at the top. And that means that after we're going to execute this action, we will not be able to perform this action again in this cycle, even if later you're going to have more credits. Different effects will allow you to rotate this action marker from 2 to 3, for example, or to 1 or to 0, and so on. And we'll talk about it a little bit later at the end of the cycle. The government action, you can immediately flip facing or to the other side the moment that you have performed it, because in any case, this is something that you'll be able to do only once per cycle. So after all players have passed, we're going to continue to the conflict phase. In the conflict phase, we're going to have a certain procedure, and the first thing that we're going to do is that the watcher, again, this is the first player that passed, is going to recruit either one infantry or one light ship for free, or he can perform a single movement order. The second thing is that we're going to place battle medals on each contested sector. A sector will be considered as contested if at this point of the game we have more than one faction in it. So as part of the conflict phase, we're going to put one of these combat medals right over here. Then we're going to resolve battles in every sector with battle medals. So in order to resolve a battle, first of all, each player is going to take the tactic cards that are valid for this specific combat. A tactic card will be considered valid if you can take one of the actions that you have on it. So for example, for the yellow player, the heavy fire card is not going to be valid for this hexagon because he does not have even one mech on it. After that, both of the players are going to choose one of their conflict cards and they're going to put it face down on the table and simultaneously going to flip it face up. So let's say that the blue player has chosen the heavy fire card and the yellow player has chosen the ground assault card. Now, in order to resolve it, we need to understand who has the lower initiative. That card will be played first. Since the blue player has the initiative of 2 and the yellow player has the initiative of 3, it's going to be the blue player's card that is going to be resolved first. So here we can see that we have two options, but only the first option will be valid because the blue player has one mech and doesn't have a mech and 2 infantry. If the blue player would have had over here 2 infantry as well, he would not be able to choose the first option because you always have to choose the option that includes the highest number of units. Sometimes you're going to have some military technologies that are going to improve your tactic cards. So let's say that the blue player has this technology that is called phase weapons. Not only he would resolve this effect that we can see on the right, also we would have added the right effect from the military technology that we have. We have 4 different kinds of damage. The first one is called massive damage, and it says to remove a unit of your choice, that means the player who is attacking with this card, ignoring the resist keyword. So we're going to talk soon about resist, but that allows the blue player to remove one of the yellow player's pieces, and it's up to him to decide which one. So to remove means that this specific piece will go back to the supply of that player. The second damage that we have is direct damage. Deal 1 damage to a unit of your choice. So again, it will allow the blue player to inflict 1 damage to one of the units, and that means that that unit will be removed also, unless it has something that is called resist. The next type of damage is the indirect damage, and in this case it's going to be the player that the damage was dealt to, and it's up to him to decide which unit will take the damage. The last type of damage that we have is retreat damage. The player taking the damage chooses one of their units to suffer 1 retreat. When you retreat, you need to take one of your units to an adjacent sector with no battle medal, so you cannot enter a unit that retreated to another contested hexagon. Also, that does not have enemy units or colonies, and it has to be to the nearest to any of your units or colonies. So for example, if the yellow player needs to retreat one of his units, he's going to take one of them and he can retreat right over here because we see that it contains one of his colonies. If there is more than one sector that the unit can move to, the player dealing the damage, not the retreating player, will choose where that unit is going to retreat to. If we absolutely have no sector that is valid, that unit is going to die and will be removed. Now, some of the units, as we can see over here, like the mech and the warship, has something that is called Resist 1. Resist 1 basically means that that unit can take 1 point of damage, either a retreat damage or the direct or indirect damage. So if, for example, we would have had here only this warship, now just for the example, ignore the specific cards that we have played. If the blue player is going to deal 1 damage to this warship, what we're going to do is just tilt it just like this, so it is indicated that it has taken 1 damage, but it is still in combat. And the next time that the blue player is going to deal 1 damage to this warship, only then the yellow player is going to remove it back to his supply. And this is why, when we have the massive damage, it tells us to ignore the resist keyword. So it's very powerful. We can take a warship with 1 massive damage. So back again to our specific case, let's say that this is how it was. The blue player will be able to do, first of all, 1 indirect damage, and also 1 massive damage. So 1 massive damage, we said that we can remove any one of these units. And for the indirect damage, it doesn't really matter that it's indirect because there is only 1 more unit of the yellow player, so he will remove it. Now, since there are no more units for the yellow player, he will not be able to play his card. But if there are still units that are over here in his hexagon, and with the tactic card that he has chosen, he can still do one of the effects, then it will be the turn of the yellow player to perform whatever he has on this card. If at the end of this combat round, still there are units from both of the factions that we have over here, we're going to continue to a second round, and both of the players are going to again choose another tactic card, and going to play it, and so on. After we have resolved all the different combats in all the different contested hexagon, we're going to move to the next thing that we have, and that is to resolve the siege. So again, just for the example, let's say that the yellow player has a colony right over here. Now, in order to siege, we need to have the basic condition, and that is to have 2 units or more in that specific sector. So obviously, the blue player has here 4 units, so he can siege this colony. But if he would have had only 1 infantry over here, that wouldn't have been possible. When you're sieging, you have 2 possibilities. The first one is to raise, and that means that we're going to completely remove that player's colony. It's going to go back into his empire board. And then we're going to receive 1 military victory point. For that, any kind of unit will be able to perform this raise. The second option is to invade. In order to invade, we need to have at least 1 unit with that ability. In our specific case, it's only going to be the infantry. When we're invading, we're going to remove this specific colony of that player back to his empire board, and we're going to replace it with the exactly same type of that colony from our empire board. So the blue player will be able to put here a scientific colony. And also, even in this case of invade, still the blue player is going to score 1 military victory point. Then each winner in that specific sector is going to take this battle medal. If this combat would have been over and the result was only this, that means that we don't have any more units in this sector, but still the yellow player has his colony. It would be the yellow player that would take the battle medal. At the end of the cycle, we're going to have again a certain procedure, and the first thing will be a prestige check. So a player is going to gain 1 influence for each opponent with fewer battle medals than that player. That means that if we just saw that the blue player has won this combat, he has 1 medal. And because this is a 2-player game, there is only 1 opponent that he has more of these battle medals than him, then the blue player is going to receive 1 influence. If we would have had a 3-player game and only the blue player has 1 medal, then he would have received 2 influence, right? Because he has more battle medals than 2 different opponents. Then we're going to go to the utopian reward, and that means that if we have here someone that is controlling this sector, he's going to resolve whatever we have over here on the singularity card. Different singularity cards are having different effects. Then we'll continue to the cleanup, and we will need to flip face up all the different technology cards that were until now face down. Then we're going to discard all the action cards that the different players have played in their turn. And also we're going to take all the 4 action cards that we have on the display. We're going to put them in a pile right over here. And we're going to put, again, 4 different action cards. Then we will need to remove invalid blockade and faction tokens. But we can see right now that nobody is blocking anyone, so it does not matter. Then we're going to go to the depletion upkeep, and we will need to spend influence to flip our depleted action markers to their normal side. So pay attention that this is something that you have to do. It's not up to you if you want to do it or not. So let's just say that we had here 3 different action tokens that were depleted, just like this. So we will need to pay influence according to the number that we have right now at the top of each token. Right now we can see that for the recruit and the colonize we'll need to pay 4, right? 2 plus 2. So from 7 we would go back to 3. So we can flip those to the normal side. And over here I want to show you that with this card of this specific faction of Zingu, removing the depletion from your advance action, which is this one right over here, is going to cost 1 less influence. Since here we can see that it's going to cost us 2, we will need to pay only 1 influence to move it. If at some point we have a situation that we have a depleted token and only 1 influence, then this token would have remained depleted. That means that we would not be able to use it in the next cycle, so you need to pay attention to it. But you are going to keep that 1 influence that you have right over here. The next step is that the player who is the watcher, that means the first player that passed in the last cycle, is going to choose one of the other players to give the first player token to. That means that he's going to choose who is going to start the next cycle. Since this is a 2-player game, he's going to give it to the blue player. The last thing that we're going to do is to advance this token right over here to indicate that we're now going to continue to the second cycle. Before starting the third cycle, we're going to have a transition phase, and that means that we're going to take the objective card of the first age and we're going to score victory points according to the different objectives that we can see on it. So this objective card that is called Rebirth of the Empire is going to score for us 1 Imperial victory point if we have a battle medal in our possession, and that means that the blue player in our case is going to have 1 Imperial victory point. And we're going to indicate it by changing the value of the die in the corresponding place. So I know this is the yellow player's Empire board, but just for the example, here we can see that we have this category that is said Imperial. So we're going to take this die, change it to the value of 1, and we're going to place it right over here. Then we're going to have 1 productive victory point if we control a sector with a living galaxy. So in our case, let's say that the yellow player is right now controlling this sector with this living galaxy. That means that the yellow player is now going to score 1 productive victory point. So again, we're going to go over here, right? Because this is the place of the productive victory points. We're going to change the value of the die for 1, and we're going to place it over here. So I'm not going to pass over all of the different icons. I invite you to look at page 20 and 21 to understand what are the different icons. But I do want to talk about something that is called objective specialization. If you fulfill the condition of an objective twice, you gain 1 more victory point. After we have finished scoring for the first age objective card, we're going to flip face up the objective card of the second age, and we're going to resolve, first of all, the text that we can see on the left side. Then we're going to take the card of the first age and we're going to cover this text that we've just read. And those will be the objectives that we can score for in the next scoring phase. So that means that the next time, the objective is not just to have 1 battle medal, but it is to have also 2 influence. So if we stand in this criteria, we're going to score 2 victory points. And to my understanding, if we're going to fulfill this condition a second time, we're going to have 1 more victory point. So again, for another example, if in the first age it was enough for us to control only 1 sector with a living galaxy and have 1 victory point, in the next one we'll have to control 2 sectors with living galaxies, but that will score for us 2 victory points. After scoring points for the second age objective cards, the player that has the highest amount of victory points is the winner of the game. And again, we're going to have 4 tiebreakers that you can see on page 21. We already talked about them at the beginning of the video. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.